So, who do you think was the dumbest team of the 1970s in Major League Baseball? Well, this team made the postseason in 1971, but gave up first on George Foster, then on Dave Kingman. Can you imagine if this squad would have kept both players into the mid to late 70s? The Dodgers' three World Series appearances would be a memory. Now, the San Francisco Giants at one point were going to move to Toronto because of bad monetary management and bad player management. But when Dave Kingman was left go and sold to the Giants basically for a bucket of baseballs, and George Foster was traded to the Reds for basically a bunch of no-name players. Foster went on to two world titles and MVP. Kingman was a tremendous home run hitter, not only for the Mets, but a myriad of teams, including the Cubs, the Yankees, the Angels. We had two tours of duty, New York and one big one in Chicago. Became a folk hero that really hasn't been seen since. George Foster, for those 3 seasons in the late 1970s, was the greatest player in Major League Baseball. Basically the most feared player, not the biggest player on the field, but the guy you needed a home run. He would hit for average 348 home runs and 1,239 RBIs, and a solid left fielder. Now, Kingman's numbers, obviously, he was a career 230 hitter, but both of them should deserve Hall of Fame consideration. I tell you why. The numbers are there. Career for Kingman, 236, 442, 1210, and played with the Giants, Mets, Padres, Angels, Yankees, Cubs, Mets again in the 80s. And he would have easily hit 500 home runs if he would have came back after the 86 season. Now, we were getting a lot of feedback in recent days about me suggesting Dave Kingman should be in the Hall of Fame. Well, I think he should be, because he dominated the 70s. He made the NL East interesting for the lower teams, because every year you had Montreal in the mix, the Pirates, the Phillies. Pirates and Phillies pretty well dominated. But we looked at the Cubs and Mets. More people were watching Dave Kingman at times in French or listening to in French, because he had a big amount of fans in Canada, because when the Montreal Expos took on the Cubs and Mets, it was iconic. See, you got to look Major League Baseball as a North American sport in the 1970s. Not only the States, but in Mexico and Canada. The predominance of Latino players were very big in Canada and the States, in Mexico, because of the various Latino immigrants. But Dave Kingman, the only reason why he's not in the Hall of Fame, and I still consider him a one-time World Series champion or World Series participant, because with his connection with the Yankees in the 77 season, he deserved a World Series ring, even though he wasn't really predominant in the postseason. And of course, with the Big Red Machine, George Foster was him and Dan Dreesen and Griffey filled it really out. Without Foster, he wouldn't have bet the Red Sox in 75 and dominated the Yankees in 76. So if you're a San Francisco Giants fan and all the World Series championships you won in recent years, or not the distant past, but the last 15 to 20 years, are well deserved. You had some really good teams. But the lost titles of the 1970s, like, how can anybody look at George Foster, Dave Kingman, and not think you got a 30 home run guy that can hit 100 RBIs? And you could bat him, George cleanup, bat him fifth, have Kingman third or fourth. It would really work. Foster had good on-base percentage, so it might be better to have Foster batting third and fourth. Can you imagine Willie McCovey and Kingman and Foster in a lineup, comparable to Bautista and Carcion and Donaldson in those glory years in Toronto in the mid-2010s, where every game was a pleasure and every game was excitement for all the fans? So that's our latest San Francisco Giants podcast, especially the vintage one. We've done quite a few over the last number of years on the Alous and different players. I really believe that's not the fault of San Francisco management. They basically couldn't keep these players because they had a payroll to meet. Oh yeah, forget Darrell Evans. Can you imagine if Darrell Evans was in that, home run group? It boggles the mind. That could be in a 300 home run team or 200 home run team in the 70s. And you get two pitchers, and he picked up Vida Blue later on. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen? So if you like what you're doing with our vintage MLB podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.